welcome to another episode of Stitchy Flossmas, and today I would like to share with you my Stitchy updates, and we're going to start right away with my most recent finish, and we are going to talk about Dimensions Lovely Victorian Home. Ta-da! It's finished, and you can see the garden gate, I think the name of this one, because I used to talk about these two a lot because I see them as one series, which now when I stitch both of them, I definitely see the difference in, the color stones and everything, but still in my head, this is the back side of this house door to the garden. This one is more like soft tone. This is very more contrasty, and but I still see them as a pair. I still dream to frame them in the same style and hang them in the house. This one, I talked about it a lot. I already showed you this finish, but I just had to bring them two and finally put them two together just to show you my vision. And I think it would be cute if I will maybe do same oval frames, but I'm thinking, what if the mat for this one will be like darkish green, like closer to those colors, and the mat for this one would be some kind of beige, this type of color, or maybe take for this one this kind of mat, and for this one like this darker green mat. So at the finished result, they are match. I am very excited to take them to the framer. Don't know when I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna put this one away for now because I talked about this. I finished it sometime this year, but a long time ago. And let's concentrate on this one and talk about this one a little bit more. I'm going to zoom you just a bit in because we're gonna talk details. And first of all, I want to say thank you to my stitchy friend, Lauren, if you're watching, thank you so much. She made me this gorgeous project bag. First of all, she stitched these beautiful roses, but then she also sewed a bag. And this was a huge motivator for me to finish this project because I organized my process in here and I wanted to touch it. I wanted to play with it. I wanted that open my pretty bag effect. So I was really motivated for lots of reasons, but one of them is to, if I stitch this project, it means I can see this gorgeous bag. This is a preview, and in my opinion, it looks just like it looks in the preview. I use these Nurgi, I think. It's not the biggest one, it's second to the biggest because the biggest Nurgi that exists. So this is number 3. I feel like there's one more size. Yes, there is one more size, and those were too big, too uncomfortable. So I used this number 3. It's the second biggest ones, and this ones I'm okay with. I like Nurgi hoop. One of my favorite. If I use the hoop, it's always this one. I don't even purchase anything other ones. Q-snaps doesn't work, not working for me. They doesn't work for me. English. The regular circle ones, they just don't do it. Nurgi hoop is it for me. If not Nurgi, it's gonna be scroll frame. So, and if you watch my previous videos, you might see that I actually changed something. I used to have a pink spots over here, and I keep looking at the preview and there's not pink spots over here, but they're right here on the pattern. So this red triangle symbol, it's a pink color, and I actually stitched as it is at the beginning, and I thought maybe they tried to imitate like petals from the roses on, falling down, but it wasn't even on the stairs. It was just kind of hanging on the wall. So right when I finish with the top of the project, because I did start it from here and I moved to the top, I frog it and just restitch those 4 little stitches. Even though it's not a gold collection, so far it's the most, it's the project where I made ever, in all my projects ever, the most amount of mistakes. I don't know why it doesn't look that difficult, but be honest with you, I don't even remember where I made those mistakes, but I will tell you where was my biggest and stupidest mistake. So if you look at the lake right here and you look at my lake, they look completely different, and that's why I stitched it first with this blue. I stitched it completely. I look at the pattern, I realized on the next day, on the next stitching day I should say, I realized I used the wrong blue, so I frogged the whole thing and stitched it with the correct dark blue, like it's shown right here. And then on the next stitch day, for some reasons, I thought I stitched it wrong, frogged it again, and restitched it with the wrong color. So I just left it as it is. Right here you see I kind of grabbed that darker blue and I just went on top just to create a little bit like a water lines, but it bothers me so much that I made so many mistakes that I just decided to keep it as it is, just for the fun, for the memory. But it wasn't all fun because this light blue, you stitch a lot of the sky right here in between the trees, and I actually ran out of the blue. But that's where my shopping addiction comes handy, and I have so many older dimensions kits. I was easily able to find the same color of the floss in those kits, and I just take just one floss on one of those kits, and that's how I was able to finish it. This is not a DMC floss. Dimensions kits have some kind of specific floss for them. So this is not a DMC floss. Dimensions kit have some specific to them floss. So I usually very careful with that, and honestly, if not that stupid mistake that I don't know how even I made it, I'm pretty sure I had enough, because before I never had a problem with running out of the floss on dimensions kits. But overall, I am very, very happy with this project. It turns out just like on the preview, just like as I imagined, zero complaints. Those trees look so realistic, and I like dimensions weren't their name. You know, the whatever who come up with that name is genius, because dimensions kits have dimension in them. You definitely can tell that this is tree up front, then goes the house, and there's the tree behind the house. Like the way they're playing with the light and the shadows with perspective is just perfect. My favorite moment, even though the house, it's the main character, it's still these steps with the flowers, because the flowers and these columns, they have shadow. And it's not just shadow, no, it's trying to repeat right the shape of the flowers or whatever the shadow we see of. So I am 100% impressed with this kit. It's beautiful, it's amazing, it's final results, so worth it. I'm so very, very happy that I kind of pushed myself and finished it this year, because now I just know that I can start saving up for the framing these projects, and hopefully by spring, summertime, I will be able to display them in my house, because I'm very proud of myself. Also, since when I started it, I still don't think I'm very knowledgeable about dimensions kits, but there's definitely something that I'd like to share for those who might not stitch the older kits yet. Older ones, I mean the ones where you have to separate the floss yourself. This kit is out of print. I know they reprinted it, so there is, I think think if I'm thinking about correct ones. There is the kits that already floss separated, they reprinted, but they always reprint in the smaller batches, and it's like never I see them. It's always like, oh, it's got reprinted, I got it, the kit. I'm like, where you got those? I never can find them. I found mine on eBay. I would say they're pretty easy to find. I see lots of people reselling them all the time. And let me show you something. So first of all, when you get older kits, you will have a nuts that you have to separate the floss, and it came with the organizer. And so this happened at the very last moments of me stitching it, because that's where all the green floss was placed, and I literally started from the very bottom, and my last stitching was at the very top right here. So all the greens were on this, and I was pulling the floss. And this is paper. This is regular paper. I'm surprised that actually it handled for almost like a year, and only by the end of the project, me being impatient, me being just like, I have to finish it, only then this happened. Never ever again would I use the organizer that comes with those older kits, because this was a very, very uncomfortable. The mess they created. I'm gonna just continue the way that I'm doing it now, which is use those bulky organizers that I like so much and just organize on those, because this is just ridiculous. Another thing, I found a Saga for it, but Saga had so many mistakes, and when I was stitching it back then, I didn't know how to fix those, how to even do Saga. Now I know, but when I was finished it, I was literally had to do just this top part, and I'm like, I'm not wasting my time on redoing the whole Saga. I'm just gonna stitch with the paper. I did find out about the Saga having lots of mistakes at the beginning, because it was just a free Saga off the internet, and I found those mistakes at the very, very beginning. So I was actually constantly checking with the paper, but I do want to show you something. So you can tell that I use the paper because the condition, like this right here, is ripping apart. This completely ripped apart. I use the paper. And for being a dimension kit, this was actually very easy to read paper pattern. But when you separate your floss, you see it says bundle 1, bundle 2, because the floss comes like in a 2 knots. And I usually go by white, whatever that says white, like in this case was this one. So I started probably separating with the bundle 2, because white, I see the white, you know, it's very easy to understand. If there's no white, I'll go with the black. Like I'm looking for the colors that you cannot confuse. I don't go straight to all those different types of greens, of dark green, dark blue green, lighter blue, dark green, and all of those stuff. No, I just look for black and white. And I'm starting from those. And at first, that's what I did. So my organizer, I separated, right? I wrote the numbers, and I thought, great, I can just start stitching now. But then you go in the pattern, and the pattern is just one big piece of paper, as you see. It's actually a very big pattern. But this is how it looks. So they tell you the number when you're separating the floss. But on a piece of paper, it still says light green, cream, lavender, gray. So at first I was constantly flipping the paper, and that's how my charges got very worn off, because I was constantly changing, flipping, because I have no printer and I will forget to like take it to work and make copies of it or something. So eventually I just took a picture of it, and then I was just looking on my phone instead of keep flipping the pattern. But For example, I stitching this moment right here, but elements for this moment, it's all the way over here. So that's why the pattern had no chance to be saved, because even though, for example, you make the copy, like for the future, I definitely will make a copy of this, or better, I should probably write down the numbers next to it, but I think about it now. I don't know why I didn't think about it when I was stitching it, and why I prefer to keep struggling even though the great ideas come to my mind right now. I should just probably write down the numbers over here. But you know, you stitch, you learn. But regardless on all of that, I am very, very proud of myself and very happy with my final results. Again, cannot wait to take it to the frame shop and frame it all. And I do think it's one of those that Dimensions need to bring to their actual reprinted, because it's just beautiful. And the stitching itself was very enjoyable too. Lots of half stitching, which you will think would be the easiest part, but no, especially on the trees, was easy to get confused. I don't know, like usually half stitching, it's quite easy, but those, maybe because I was kind of tired of the project, because you know, I've been stitching a lot this year. I started it this year, I finished it this year. I think there's around 20, maybe 25,000 stitches in here. Maybe it was because this, what I have left only to do, and it felt like it's never ending. I don't know, but I'm very, very happy that I finished it, and I finished my garden one, and now I finally can move on to the part 2 of my plan of framing both of those and hang them in my house. Since we're talking about dimensions, I would like to show you what I do with floss leftovers. I know that some resell it, some throwing it away. I like dimensions floss, and even though when I buy charts, usually if it was just a chart as printed, only as a chart, they did put in description for DMC floss, but I like to save all of the dimensions floss that I got in the kits for a purpose, like happened with the blue floss. If I run out of something, I made a mistake, I know I have a stash. B, I have some dream kits that I think probably I will never find. Some of them possible to find, but people put prices of like $200 and up, and I'm just not ready to spend those kind of money for those kits, especially knowing that the original price is like $25-30. And I just hope one day I will find the person who will sell me maybe just a chart from that kit, and I will have a floss in my stash. Maybe not all of it that needed, but at least some of it. So I have this organizer. I feel like lots of people organizing the floss in this organizers. As you can see, I have lots that needs to be still put on organizers. But this, I found some kind of kit at the thrift store. This one I finished before. And then this is floss from the garden, all the leftovers. And because my garden floss also looked like this, that one I actually put on organizers, like on this one. So I also, for some reasons, have lots of paper bobbins that for daily, often I should say, use are not great, but for storaging, and you know, I don't use this much, I like just to have it, they were great, and I can use them for something, those organizers. So the next step for this floss, it's gonna be organized on these bobbins. So if in the future I need some of the floss I have, because I do have lots of dimensions kits, especially I buy lots of from the eBay, and people, I turn to trust them that kit has never been touched, but some of them does come open, even though It is in the description, so I'm prepared for that. But you know, you never know. Maybe they never touched it, but somehow got lost. So my dimensions, kits, floss, I save, and maybe one day I will able to find those unicorn charts that I'm looking for. If you watch my plans for winter season video, you already seen this, but I just so proud of myself. I want to show it again. This is the Snowflake Elegance by Dimensions and Sandy Orton collaboration. I finished my first snowflake, so it's complete finish. I am waiting for finishing another 5, and then I will finish them all together, so they're all in one style. As I told you in my winter plans video, my goal is to finish all 6 by the end of the season, because I am dreaming to start so many more projects by Sandy Orton, but I am participating in a sale, and you cannot just jump between the projects, which is great. It motivates you a lot to finish the one that you already started. And I've started another one. It's a very tiny little start. I'm telling you, stitching in the evening in the winter time, it's very difficult for me. I see dark outside, I fall asleep. I just cannot control my body. If it's dark outside, I just want to sleep. But I started the bells. You can kind of already see the shape of them. Stitching on the same fabric as I did for this one, the lutex one. And I want to try to finish the second snowflake by the 15th of December, because the 15th of December, it's the day when we need to post our befores and after. And each month you'll have to, each month you have to stitch at least 500 stitches, which I'm sure I will make that, but because I'm crazy and I want to start more projects, I do kind of want to try to stitch a snowflake every 2 weeks. Then I can start another project by Sandy Orton way earlier than the beginning of the next season. So, but that's a crazy plans. Let's be realistic. If you watch my winter plans, you know how much I planned. Most likely, I will probably finish only the middle part by the 15th. But there's my another tiny, small kind of finish and very small start and progress. Next project I worked on, it was that sweet teddy with quilt. I have not come up with an idea what I'm gonna do with the quilt part yet. Be honest with you, I haven't even sit down and think about it. It is constantly in my mind, but I think till the time I actually have to get to that point, I will probably postpone it. But I finished the teddy herself. All I need to do, it's a back stitch. So this is one of those older kits. We have this very square like back stitching, and it takes time. Not gonna lie, it does take time. It takes a lot of time, but looks like I did half of her beautiful blue bow, her pass, some of her dress. I just need to finish on this another part of the bow and on her feet. And then I'm gonna move on to the little seat where she sits, a cake, move on to the flowers, and then it will be a time to figure out what to do with this. And I told you before, I'm thinking about making a pillow, and if not a pillow, I'm thinking, what about a huge square pin kip? Because I feel like she's too small for the pillow, only if I stitch like a big chunk of fabric around her. But if I make a pin kip, it can be a cute, maybe like a door decoration. I can put a little like a hoop in there so I can hang her. And that way, when I finish the pin kip, I don't need to stitch the pink part. Or maybe I will stitch the pink frame, but the like a lace around it, lace around it, I don't need to stitch. As you can hear me saying from video to video, apparently I really don't want to stitch that lace part. So I keep thinking what else I can do, how I can substitute, what I can add. But as for right now, I'm very happy with my progress. It's very easy stitching. I only stitch like couple evenings per each 2 week because I do also participate with this Teddy and Sal. It's a Teddy Sal, and the stitching is so easy. It's kind of boring because you're basically taking one color and you just stitch with it till your floss is done, especially like in her dress. I did some substitution here. I talked about it in my previous stitcher updates because it's one of those older kits, so it has already have some complications with it. And also there's a dark pink right here showing a shadow on her dress, but I cannot unsee, like she has a pink gloss. I just cannot unsee it now, but she's fancy, she got a manicure. Anyway, this is my progress so far on her. I don't want to take her out of the hoop because I need to finish the back stitch and it's kind of in the perfect spot right now. Actually, let's take her out because then I can move my hoop here, do the back stitching, and then move on to the cake. Like, yeah, let's take the hoop so we can see her all together. Isn't she just lovely? So cute. I feel like her by herself is just super adorable also. I found this kit very randomly on eBay, and the seller was also selling her for like $10 and included 3 spoolies of cranic, and I'm like, that's a great deal. And I do think she's adorable. And then I just very randomly saw that Sal, that one of my favorite Flosstubers started with teddies, and I'm like, why wait when it's gonna be that moment when I decide to start her else? And it's just the puzzle was there. I decided to participate in the Sal, and I decided to start her, even though I had no plans at all to start her anytime soon, but I did it anyway because I really wanted to participate in the Sal. I do like participating in the Sals. I feel like it's a great motivation to stitch as many projects as you have, especially if Sal has no particular goals that you need to achieve each month, you know, like the ones that I'm participating by Sandy Orton and Teresa Wensler. We do have to stitch 500 stitches minimum every month, but this one I can stitch as many as I want, and it works great for me. So just because there was no strict rules except just post your updates every two weeks, that's why I participated. Very happy with it. The teddy already ready, and all I have left is just the little details around her. As I told you about my plans before, I planned to start this one on my birthday, and I did. This is letter E, my first name, my real first name. It's Yekaterina, and it starts with Ye, and Russian Ye looks just like English E. So that's why I'm stitching E, not K, which I also can do that one, but I really like her the most. And I learned a lot of things with this pattern, and I don't even know where to start. I think I'm just going to start with showing you my results. I've been stitching her since, well, for how many days? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. After 5 days of stitching, this is my results already. She is very easy to stitch, very fast, and I have so many thoughts, I don't know where to start. I think let's start with the fabric I chose. This is the 32nd count Lugana. I purchased it from 1 to 3 stitch. It has this opalescent lutex in it, so it's all shiny and sparkly. First of all, what I learned, right? I learned that I'm very not good about space, meaning, why do I left such a big cups? If I would move her and start her from here, I can have a good chunk of fabric leftovers. But, so first of all, that's not her top, but there's not much left. There's like yay big. So I really, turns out, don't understand how to position my process on the fabric. And I feel horrible because I feel like I'm wasting such a beautiful fabric, such a huge piece of it. And like this, what can I stitch here, you know? Like, it's kind of in between. So next time I will definitely think about it more. I think I was so excited to start. It was my birthday, you know, it was a very busy week altogether. I had a great birthday. And I think I just wanted to start it, so I just found the center of the fabric and I started it, but I didn't do it smart way, like not at all. Second thing I learned is that before you buy all the floss that the pattern required, get a pattern first, learn it, and then get your floss. I got everything as chart required, and everything you stitch, it's the classic color works. And first I'm gonna answer in some clips. I literally just started cross stitching and this is so annoying. This, somewhere else, all of these moments. Why are we keep using this floss? This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is annoying. I just sat down. Not even a minute of me cross stitching. Just this line right here. And it's already mess on top of the mess. I'm so annoyed. This is DMC would never. First impression is the quality of the floss. I am not happy with that. I don't remember the last time I had such a difficult time with just stitching with the floss. Each one of these flosses that I've stitched so far with had knots. Some of them I never even pay attention. I'm not ashamed of my bag. Knot. Some of them I didn't even see, and I already stitched so far that I'm like, you know what, it's just staying there because I just so frustrated and irritated, and it's bothering me a lot. But another reason for my new rule, buy the pattern, then buy the floss, it's that for some patterns you really don't need all of this floss. For example, this one, 013, that's the name of it. I used only 2 flosses of this one, and I didn't even get to, because I don't want to keep pointing with my fingers. What do I have? My Harry Potter one, so just accept me, okay? This particular floss, I think when I'm going to finish this project, I'm going to do a full deep dive on all my thoughts, because right now they kind of mushed all together. But for example, this particular floss, you can see the very light yellow, and I never got to the variation floss. I think what I'm talking about, the deep dive, I want to kind of sit down and go through my whole DMC stash and find a matching DMC floss, I will want to share with you. Maybe somebody will also need it, but I also want to do it for myself, so in the future I don't keep buying this floss, because in some cases it's really not that necessary. So this particular floss, you can see that it's very slightly dark yellow and a very light yellow, but like you look at the floss like now and you barely even can see that variation, and especially because you only stitch a small groups of stitching here and there. One of these areas I stitch with the darker side of that variation floss, so really it's not needed. But I don't want to say it's not needed yet, I guess, because I haven't compared the DMC floss, so I don't know if there's any very close substitution in a DMC. So maybe there's no even DMC color that matches that, but maybe that's why you need it. So that's why later on I do want to do kind of a very particular work and find as close as possible DMC colors. But this costs like what, $250, around that price, and for a couple stitches here and there, it's really not that needed. Another color that, again, I cannot say that you don't need it, because I don't know if there's any DMC close enough substitution, but it's this one. There's so slightly variation that it's not that important. And because this particular one, you stitch next to this one, it's really loses any variation that possibly is there compared to this one, because this variation you definitely can see, this one you're not. And that gold one, it's also in these elements. It's a little circle right here, a little group of stitching here, 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 a little bit here. You know, again, we have a little groups here and there. I started it by taking 2 flosses, but at the end I was taking just 1 floss, do the hoop method and just stitch it, because you cannot see the variation floss. And that brings me to another thing that kind of annoyed me. I'm not expert in variation floss. I have a little experience. My first one was with all fours embroidery, and those were super easy. I thought I got it. I thought variation floss would be so difficult, but that one was so easy. I figured it out. It's 0 problems. This one, this pink one, I haven't used yet, so you have to undo it in order for you to grab the floss out, but it's already pre-cutted. So the pink floss, this one, you can see variation very well, and the floss is already pre-cutted. And you will think, if I take this ply and I want to fold it in half, I can't, because the variation pattern does not match. You can see that this half of the floss is light pink, this half of the floss dark pink. I guess I can go like so to do a hoop method, but then what do I do, you know, with this end? Like I have to stitch, like my first experience with variation floss, again, it was all fours embroidery, and I like how that one came untouched, uncut, and I was able to do it myself and figure out myself how I want to cut it in order for me to do the hoop method, or if I don't want to do the hoop method. Where this one, it's already kind of cut for me and I don't like it. And I guess let's talk about this pink floss next, because you can see on the pattern it uses literally like in 4 places, a little bit here, here, 1 stitch right here, and then right here in a sparkle. Same. It is a gorgeous pink floss, I would say. I like how you can see the variation, but for this particular kit, you don't need this floss. So I already Again, if I will be able to find DMC floss, these 3 colors for sure not that really needed for this particular pattern. But again, I have not dived in my DMC stash yet. I'm going to do it, so because I'm very curious, is there any substitution that you can do? But it's not like this pink floss really not that needed, and that's why I made this new rule for me: get the pattern and then get the floss, because definitely can work with some substitution. I will say I really enjoy how it looks. For example, I really like the wings. So the wings you stitch with the 2 different types of floss. This one, I think, and I think this one. And again, this blue, is it really needed as a variation floss? No. It's kind of give me the same vibe as a yellow one. It's so slightly there, but it's not necessary. However, for example, this floss, it's very important that you use particular this one. 100% this one needed. Same with first impression, right? 100% needed. So slightly you can see. On the camera you see it less noticeable, but in real life it's very noticeable. And with this color you stitch the whole letter E, basically all this brown, and I think in this case it was needed because you do stitch a big amount of stitching with this particular variation floss, and I like how it gives you light shadow, light shadow, light. It gives it some kind of dimension. It makes it looks interesting. It doesn't even look patchy, right? It just looks almost like real wood or something. And in this case, because first of all, I like how it's a soft variation, but it's also noticeable, and you do stitch a big amount with this particular floss. In this case, I do agree it's needed. And if you're going to stitch maybe this same letter, I would say this is 100% needed floss. Let's talk about this violet one, why it's needed, because it's the wings. So the middle part, only this one, is stitched with that violet 045, where the light parts you stitch with that light blue. But because the letter E itself has this stripe pattern, and when I was stitching with this floss, I was actually closing each stitch at the same time, so at the end I got the same results of the lines, so it gives you effect of the see-through wings, and this is so far my absolutely favorite moment of this pattern. This is great. This is my favorite. I think it's just beautiful. And that's why 100% this one is needed. Another rule why look at the pattern first, then buy the floss. It's for, I mean, I have a great stash now, but I'm not really looking forward to working with this floss because it was very annoying. Anyway, I will have to now, because what else to do with it? This great floss, it's actually very interesting, and it's one of those that you see variation very well. And I will say, I don't think the whole pattern needs to be with a very noticeable variation. I think if it's very noticeable variation all over the place, it will look messy. What I'm trying to say is that those colors that I didn't like, for particular this pattern, they're not really needed, because you cannot see the variation anyway because of the small group of stitching you need to do. However, with that brown one, the one you just stitch the full letter E, it is also very lightly variation. But you do stitch a big piece with it and you see the variation, but it's very soft. So I'm not saying they all bad as a variation. I don't think the whole pattern needs to be done in very noticeable, very strong variation floss. It's just for those particular colors. Again, I do want to dive into my DMC stash and see if I can find substitutions, and in the future I will definitely buy a pattern first and then see if it's really needed to get that variation floss. Because what happened with this floss, it's actually a very interesting one, right? It's like from that gray brown to maroon brown, like it's very noticeable. The only place it was stitched, it's this light brown in her hair. That's it. This floss is not going to be used anywhere else in this pattern. That's it. So I didn't even get to the variation plot, nothing. That's it. So again, that's why buy a pattern, learn the pattern, then get the floss. The pink one, it kind of has the same effect as the blue and the yellow one. And with this pink, you stitch her body, and I did choose to stitch petite stitch. But in this case, I do like how it's variation. I've stitched a lot. You can see the little variation, looks like shadows, right? And I'm okay with it. I do think it's cute, it's interesting. You don't need to stitch it with a petite stitch. On preview, it's stitched with a regular stitching, but I am planning to stitch lots of memorabilia, especially those gorgeous mermaids, and I just decided to practice to stitch the skin with petite stitch. But it was very easy, and also it's a very small amount of petite stitching, so it wasn't that overwhelming or scary or like I got zero negative emotions. Besides that, when I was grabbing just one floss of this one, I had to cut it almost to like 3 pieces one floss, because otherwise it just separates. I'm gonna enter another clip. Okay, I am very frustrated with this floss. So that's exactly what just happened. It didn't snap, it just separated. Maybe because it's 100% cotton. But I am stitching right now with one floss over one on the 32nd count, and yes, this fabric is a little bit stiff, so I understand that the end will do this, but I feel like I already wasted so much floss because I never can finish the full strength of it, because that's what happens. It just separates. It separated. Another beautiful color, hydrangea. I love hydrangeas. It has very slight from like blue to purplish blue, and I feel like if you have some kind of piece where you need to do lots of stitching, especially like maybe row by row, it's gonna be gorgeous. But it was used just a tiny bit right here in a dress, and I mean the dress turns out to be very pretty. It does go from that dark blue to purple to blue, and I think there's like 3, maybe even 4 different flosses starting like layering it. So I do like the final result, so I feel like it was worth it. But I believe with this floss only this part was stitched. Another floss that's very pretty, it's this one, and on camera you barely see the variation, and in stitching really it just goes from dark to green, to light green. Like you can see it's a little bit dark here, it's definitely lighter green over here, which gives its own effect. It's not really needed. I mean, it's not really that important, but at the end, I do enjoy what it looks like. Another floss that I feel like if I can find a DMC substitution, I would do that. And you can actually see, I think, the variation, but it's so slightly, so not important. You see it? It goes from like brown to kind of maroonish brown, And I also started to stitch it with 2 flosses because you cannot hoop it, but at the end I was just hooping it, and honestly you cannot see it at all. This right here, this dark brown, I was stitching with 2 floss, so the variation of the floss is matching. Over here I was using the hoop method, and I feel like there's zero difference. This one is very pretty floss. This one actually will be fun to have and stash. It goes from like purple to grayish blue. I feel like it would be way more interesting if there's a bigger piece to stitch with it, but because it was just here, 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 and this in dress, that only because it was stitched also right here in a dress to give you like from darker blue to the purple, and then we use the hydrangea from purple to the blue. Only because of the dress I feel like it was needed. All blue jeans, same, you barely can see the variation, and that's the dark blue you can see on the end of her dress. Wisconsin wood possibly was stitched in her dress. Maybe there was that in between color right here, I don't remember right now. But also the back stitch of her body stitching with this one. And finally smoke. This is gonna be the most used probably floss, because all this little twists and turns, and the whole letter E, and the little line of back stitching here and here, it's all gonna be done with this floss. And that's why I have this right here, because I finished the back stitching on letter E, but right from here from the top it's gonna be called those twists. So that's why I haven't cut it yet, because why if I need to do the floss there anyway. Overall, my emotions are great. The stitching is very fast. I really enjoyed it. My original thought was to spread this stitching for a year and stitch it on the 29th of each month, because 29th is my birthday. But I feel like there's high possibility that I'm going to finish it this year. Oh, and forgot to show you, you also need 2 cranics. I have not collected the beads yet. That's going to be in the next part. But the gold cranic, you actually stitch a lot. You can see the sparkle right here in the middle of letter E. There's not on top, but there's right here in the middle. And also lots of it right here, especially right here on the bottom. And I believe this is Lugana 32nd count. And I will tell you that braid number 4 of cranic does not like Lugana 32nd count, because after a couple of stitching it was just falling apart, because the braid, it's literally a twist of bunch of blending filaments, and it will be like separating like crazy. I posted on my Instagram stories this kind of, see, this is actually still looks normal but I think I saved this piece just to show you. Like, this is how it's supposed to look like, nice and braided, and this, what would happen to it after the just couple stitching on the 32nd Lugana. But I made it great. The blue one is very interesting. It has like almost black sparkle in it, and this one you use only for her wings. And again, her wings is definitely my favorite part in a whole stitching. I have not collected the beads yet. I'm pretty sure I have it all. And it's Lugana, I think it's Lugana. And even though it's 32nd count, you literally have no space in between the threads on the fabric. It's very tight. And therefore the places where the bead gotta go are so tiny. So I think I'm going to substitute everything for petite beads. And then over here, that kind of looks like crosses. That's like a little flowers of her magic, and you need to do some stitches in here. I'm thinking, I haven't played with it yet. I need to be in a crafty mood and go to my bead stash, and I think I'm gonna add some beconuses, some other type of beads, sparkles. Like, I think that's the time when you can kind of have fun and change things and add things. Same with that pink floss that needs to be stitched here, here, and here. I'm thinking, what if I have some kind of pink beads, pink beconuses, and I can add it, substitute it, change it to make it more sparkly, more interesting, add some little details. That was my creativity. And I will finish this stitch updates over here. I did spend a lot of time on finishing my dimensions. Lovely Victorian home. I think like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, I was just stitching constantly this project only. That's why I didn't really have time to have progress on any other of my projects. My little stitch updates, I feel like I talked a lot about this one, and I feel like I'm not even finished because I am going to still add beads, and I do want to do the deep dive in my DMC stash and see if the substitution even possible, or you do need those colors just because they have that pastel out of really big contrast effect that needed for the stitching. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. If you have any thoughts, if you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. I will see you very soon in the next Stitchy Flossmas, and happy stitching. Have a great time. I'll see you soon. Bye.